Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1154, Sunday, June the 7th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week in the comments section of this video. So the comments section of this video, get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week. Try to do that by 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll do my very best to make sure every vote is counted. I really do. I make a very strong effort to do that. I do understand sometimes one or two slip through the cracks. I'm sorry, it's just fortunately the way things are, but I do my best to make sure I get them all. So there you go. Now, before I get into a couple things I want to talk about today, I just wanted to point out something that I've kind of been observing here from where I'm sitting here in southwestern Ohio. And I realize as I'm watching these riots and protests and all these things going on across the country and now around the world, that I realize that we are all viewing everything that's happening here through a slightly different lens. So if you're sitting right now in Minneapolis, or if you're out in Portland, the lens that you're viewing all of this through is much different than the lens I'm viewing from. So you have to remember, I live in a very, very red, about as red as you can get, voting district and county. And there are two other very red counties neighboring us. And then we have kind of a purple county, which is the city, Cincinnati, which is Hamilton County. And then, of course, as we go farther and farther north, as we get up to Columbus, it's about a 50-50 mix. And then once you get north of there, you get up toward the city, up toward Cleveland, it's pretty blue up there. So we're a very, very red. I'm in a very red area of the state of Ohio. The southern part of Ohio is very red. The northern part of Ohio is quite blue. And, of course, throughout the country, you may be in a state that's entirely red almost, dominated by red. Or you might be in a state that's just entirely by blue. You might be in a blue city in a red state. You might be in a red city in a blue state. So we're all viewing this through a completely different lens, and that's what makes this problem a bit complex. But I do believe that it all sorts itself out if we just allow it to play itself out naturally. So here's just a couple thoughts I wrote down, and then I'll kind of expand on this. So I've noticed over the couple days, remember, I'm looking through the lens of someone in a very red county, in a very red part of a state that voted for Trump by 11% in 2016, surrounded by other red states. So I'm in a pretty red area where I am. So the lens that I'm seeing through is where this is coming from. And I realize that this may not jive with all of you because you're looking through a different color lens than me. Some of you are looking through the similar lens. And there's a lot of variances to this. But just from my perspective, here's what I'm observing. And here's just a few notes I took. I'm observing from where I sit that the woke left is turning on itself. We just saw Comrade de Blasio and this nut mayor up in Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, being the first two victims in the last 48 hours of the woke left turning on them. I'm sure you saw de Blasio literally getting booed off of stage on, I believe it was Friday. Then yesterday, we see this child mayor up there in Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, in a massive group of protesters. He's trying to be in with them, and they ask him if he will defund the Minneapolis Police Department. He says no, and they shame him out of the event. They shame walk him right out of the event. It was sad, pathetic, and hilarious all at the same time. So the woke left is clearly turning on itself. The woke left mob has gone nuts, as you can clearly see. We have millions of snowflakes are now full-blown woke zombies. They're woke zombies. I have seen images in the last couple days I never thought that I would see. In fact, I just joked a couple days ago, like 2 days ago in a video, I joked about the woke zombies wanting to disband the police. And now I realize that it's not a joke. They really mean that. And they're going to hold these Democratic mayors and governors to that. It turns out that these people are serious, and the Democrats and their allies have now lost control of their woke zombie disciples, demented disciples that they are. And now the woke left zombies are turning on their paymasters. So what should we do? Other than to watch and have a good laugh? Well, I guess the thing I would, right off the top of my head, I would say if you're in a blue city or a blue state, leave. There's plenty of red territory. There's plenty of room here in southern Ohio. It's quite nice right here. Where I'm sitting right now, and for the past week and a half, 2 weeks that all this has been going on, and even when the coronavirus thing was going on, pretty much. Very quiet. Very peaceful. I'm out all day, every day. Blacks and whites, Hispanics, going along about their lives. You see no sign whatsoever of any discord. It's just life is normal around here. If we didn't have a TV set, or newspapers, or the internet, we would never know anything's happening. It's just totally life is normal around here. We're just happy that we can finally take off those stupid masks and go outside and go to the store and go get a haircut and do all these things that we like to do. But I realize that if you live in a blue state or a blue city, it's easy to say, yeah, leave. But and for some of you, that's a possibility. Some of you can say, yeah, man, I got to get out of here. And you can literally pick up and leave and go to a blue city or a blue state close to you and start your life there. But for many people, you can't just pick up your entire life and move. You're stuck. You're stuck in that blue city or that blue state because it's just, you've got too many roots down. You have things that keep you there that just would make it very, very difficult. Not everyone can just pick up and move. And that's a bummer for a lot of you, because that would be my advice. Get out. But I realize a lot of you can't. So some of the things I'm about to say are not going to make you very happy, but ultimately, I think that this is the solution. I think that the solution right now for the president and for all of us who just want to see this all go away and we return back to normal, I think the solution for the president right now is just to do nothing for now till after the general election starts, and then there'll be something he can do. But for now, he should just sit back and observe. Because if you look around, you'll see that the red states, the red cities, are taking care of their business. We don't have this stuff going on here, and it's not going to go on here. If the ne'er-do-wells come into this county, they will get beat down so fast that they'll never make it across the county line. They'll be met at the county line, and they won't make it into the neighborhoods. But if they do, what they will find is thousands and thousands and thousands of homeowners guarding their property, guarding their neighborhoods. It will look like, it'll be no different than deploying the military on the street. It just will be, civilian people, many of whom, of course, have served in the military. But our sheriff has already said he's going to deputize every permit holder in the county if the ne'er-do-wells show up. They have no hope here. They have no hope. They will lose and lose bad. They won't last more than a day in this county. The first store they try to burn down or the first window they break, they're done. Their asses will be handcuffed, thrown in a police car, and taken away. Every single one of them that commits a crime. And if they go into the neighborhoods where the homes are and the people live, they will get their asses kicked. Many of them will get shot and killed right on the front lawn. And our sheriff has basically said, that's, you have to do what you have to do. They come on your lawn, you tell them to get off, you fire the warning shot. If they keep coming, you think your life's in danger, put a round in them. And that's how it's going to go. So we're not worried here in the red cities and red towns and red states. We'll take care of it. Our red state governors and mayors and police chiefs will take care of it. Red state sheriffs will take care of it. They're not going to succeed at coming into these areas of the country. They can only thrive in the urban areas, large areas in mostly blue states and blue cities where they have liberal governments, liberal police chiefs, liberal sheriffs, liberal councils, liberal mayors, liberal governors. This is where they can thrive. In fact, all of these liberal government establishment people are on their team. They're supporting them. They're advocates for them. They're promoting them. You won't see that in red states. So what Trump should do between now and the start of the general election, which is typically defined as Labor Day, he should just sit back and let these these blue states and blue cities, let these people destroy themselves. Let them burn down every damn blue city and blue state in the country. That's what you do. Very simply. Just make sure that the red states and red cities, red counties, take care of their business and don't let it infect them. Because ultimately, those people are not going to vote for Trump anyway. And the Democrats and these sane people who do live in these blue cities and blue states, because there are still some sane people, both Republican and Democrat, that live there that can't get out or stuck there for some reason. And those people are simply going to vote in large numbers for Trump. Because what Trump would do in September, after Labor Day, when the general election starts, is start running heavy-duty campaign ads into these blue cities, into these blue states, making them people perfectly aware that Trump is the law and order president. And the reason that their cities and towns are being burned down is because their governments, their mayors, their governors and such, will not allow Trump to send in reinforcements to help put down the rioting. They refuse his help. In fact, they're supporting and encouraging the rioters and joining them in many cases and agreeing, yeah, we should disband the police. We should defund the police. You see it happening in Los Angeles and various other places all over the country. Let them do it. And then let them live with the decision they have made. Yeah, go ahead out there, Mayor Garcetti. Go ahead and get rid of the Los Angeles Police Department. Let's see what happens. I guarantee you, in less than 3 days, those people will be begging for the cops. Begging for the cops. And just let it go to rot. Let these people burn it all down till there's nothing left to burn. Once they've burned down every building, destroyed every business in the city, in the county, in the state, there's nowhere else to go, except for maybe into a red state, where they'll summarily get their asses kicked and pushed right back into the hellhole they just left, where there's nothing left. Nothing left there for them. No jobs, no economic opportunity, no businesses open, nothing but poverty, smoked out ruins, and hell. That's what they have created for themselves. Let them live in it. They created it, after all. Where I live, we're not apologizing for shit. Period. I don't feel bad about anything. I feel just fantastic. I don't feel any guilt. Why should I feel any guilt? I've never done anything to anybody of any race or religion or what have you. I could care less. I mind my own business and I take care of my business. And I expect other people to do the same. That's how conservatives think. It's not like conservatives, people in red states, get up every day and say, gee, what can I do today to screw some black guy? No. But let me tell you the other reason why this is so powerful and why this will work very, very well. Because what they really need, yes, it's helpful to have a couple million young white liberal zombies to die on the streets for your cause because they're idiots, they're just not very wise, they're easily manipulated. Young white liberals can be sacrificed for the cause. That's no problem. And I tell my young white liberal friends who fall into this garbage that that's exactly what they'd be doing. And they should think twice about it. But the reason why these people are going to fail and fail miserably is because the majority of blacks across this country do have a good standard of living. They do live in a pretty nice house. Some of them live in very nice houses. Some of them are rich even and live in the really high rent districts. too many blacks in this country, the overwhelming majority, have good jobs, have nice houses, they drive nice cars, have nice families, go to church on Sunday, their kids go to good schools, they play sports. They have a great life. They realize that their lives are far, far better than their fathers or their grandfathers or their great-grandfathers, and they're very, very blessed, and that's how they feel. So the idea that all these blacks across the country are just going to fall into this is not true. It's easy to sucker a bunch of young white liberal teenagers, but for mature black residents all across this country, in cities and towns and states all across this country, the overwhelming majority are doing very well. They're very happy with their lives. And they're not going to buy into this bullshit. And they'll be standing right there in their suburbs defending their houses right alongside the white guys with their guns. The majority of black people in this country are not going to get suckered into this deal. They know that America's a pretty great place. It's not perfect. We have some problems. Everyone does. But the majority, overwhelming majority of blacks are not buying into this bullshit. It's mostly young white liberals. And then you have the radicals, like Antifa, and now the Black Panthers have decided to join in. Now those guys bring guns to the party. That's okay. They're badly outnumbered. So, again, the best thing to do is just to make sure that this doesn't bleed into the red states or red counties or red cities across the country, cities and towns across the country. Make sure it just stays within the blue states and blue cities. Let them destroy it all. And then in the fall, Trump can run on law and order. And these poor blacks, poor whites in these urban areas who are watching all this will finally be sick to death of it. Their cities and towns will have been destroyed. And they'll be demanding, crying out for some law and order. You let the situation burn itself out, because ultimately that's what will happen. These people will tire. And when there's nothing else left to burn, no windows left to break, nothing left to loot, they're pretty much stuck. They're like a group of animals who've eaten all the grass in that area, and now they need to move somewhere else where there's some new grass that they can eat. But in this case, that will be coming into the red states. But that's not going to happen. That's where they will be stopped, and they'll be pushed back to where they came from, and there won't be nothing there. So the majority of people are not what is represented on these videos that we're watching of the rioters and the looters and all this stuff. They don't represent the majority of people in the country. The majority of people in this country, including blacks, live in middle class, upper middle class, even wealthy areas of their states. Their lives are good. And they are not going to throw it all away to join a movement which is dubious at best about what their real intentions and motives are. A lot of these black people are not fooled. They're not stupid. We have areas all over where I live, very, very nice housing communities around where I live, upper income, like $400,000, $500,000 homes in all these areas. Plenty of blacks, plenty of Muslims, plenty of Asians, plenty of Hispanic people live in those very, very nice neighborhoods. They're not going to give it all up to join the Antifa crew and the crazy white liberal zombies who are woke. So let them burn themselves out. Let them destroy all they can. And when there's nothing left to destroy, make sure that they don't infect the rest of the country. And I'm sure red state governors, mayors, police chiefs, and residents will make sure they do not. And then in the fall, Trump can run on law and order. And I guarantee you, if this happens, he will get 2 to 3 times the black vote that he got in 2016. Because the majority of blacks are watching what's going on here, and they're not buying into it. If you look at the videos, it's mostly young, white, liberal zombies who are the ones who are the street soldiers here. Begging for forgiveness, falling on their knees, apologizing. It's sickening to watch. It really is. But the majority of people are not that stupid. This just seems to be some phenomenon that's happening in the large urban areas, liberal cities, where they have liberal governors, liberal mayors, liberal police chiefs. They're the ones that's taking the brunt. And as I said at the beginning of this video, you can see now that because they're not woke enough, they don't buy into the entire agenda like de Blasio and Jacob Fry, because they're saying, nah, I don't think we can actually disband the police. Uh-oh, then you're not one of us. Go, you shall be shamed. And that's just it. There will never be enough that you can do for these people. No matter what demands they make, no matter how much you try to meet their demands, it will never, ever be enough. And they'll be asking for things that are so incredibly insane that no reasonable person would ever capitulate to them. So this is a position that the demo commies have put themselves in. They now have an army of millions of young white liberals who are essentially woke zombies. And they have swallowed this propaganda hook, line, and sinker. Their minds have been washed in this garbage. And that's their problem. Like I said, it's peaceful, beautiful, quiet, no problems around here at all. Not even so much as a foul word. Everybody is pretty much the same that they always are. We're not affected at all by what's going on in these blue cities and blue states. It's total peace and calm here. Everything is fine. Everything's beautiful. And that's the way it is for the most part across most of the country until you get into these urban areas run by liberals. So they've created these people. Let them live with them. Let them figure out how to deal with them. And you know what? I don't think they know how. I think they've lost control of them. And as long as all these young white liberals want to continue to sacrifice themselves for this ridiculous movement, which is a fraud, let them do it. I don't care. Just stay the hell out of my community. That's all I got to say. Now, many of you have noticed that it was just 2 weeks ago that we were told that we couldn't have weddings, funerals, go to concerts or ball games. Kids couldn't play together in the park. And we all had to wear a mask. Or no, we can't. No, we shouldn't wear the mask. Or no, we should wear the mask. No, masks are good. No, masks are bad. Who knows? Mask, no mask. Who knows? Anyway, we're told that it's all about the science and our health. Now, of course, the left is telling us that the protesters and the mobs are no risk and that the scientists and the health professionals tell us that the protesters and rioters can have these large gatherings because it's vital to the national public health. 2 weeks ago, large gatherings, or even small gatherings, were a crime. In liberal cities, liberal mayors and governors saying, if we catch you gathering with more than 3 people in less than 6 feet, we're going to arrest you. Now, they're out there telling us that it's good for the national health for people to have these massive protests and riots. And so they're defending them. That's right, it's an Orwellian world, man. It's an Orwellian world. So what does all this mean? Well, it's very simple. What it means is that the entire hoax, coronavirus hoax, was nothing more than pure politics. It was about politics. They believed that if they could shut down the country and destroy the economy, it would hurt Trump in 2020 and the Republicans, so they could get back power. This was all about the Democrats getting back into power. They were willing to destroy the economy to punish all of us for voting for Trump so that they could get back their power. It was all politics. Had nothing to do with health and nothing to do with science. Just politics. And now that's perfectly clear. For those of you who've been watching my videos for a couple years, you know what I've been saying for years now, since I started doing these videos, which is that you cannot reason with these people. You cannot negotiate or argue or anything else with these people. They have to be defeated. Now, fortunately, because they're a death cult, they'll defeat themselves. They will eventually turn on themselves. You just have to stand back and let that happen. But in the meantime, you must draw a perimeter line and make sure that they don't infect your areas, your county, your district, your part of the state, or what have you. Keep them contained within their own hell, and they will destroy themselves. These people are freaking crazy. Watch the video. These people are crazy. But yes, I suspected pretty early on, as did many of you, that this whole thing was a bit suspect. And it became very obvious when you begin to see red governors opening up their states and not having any more problems with their numbers rising with coronavirus, rather than, in fact, they continue to fall and fall and fall. But we would see the blue states and Democrats in general telling us, no, we have to stay locked down until hell freezes over. We have to stay locked down at least until this date or this date or this date. And they will keep pushing the dates back, because what they wanted to do was completely push everything back till Election Day 2020. Then, of course, the next day, everything's fine. Now we can open up the country. By then, in which case, they would hope that they would have destroyed the economy. And therefore, Trump would be defeated, and Democrats would win back the White House, probably hold on to the House, gain seats in the Senate, maybe win the Senate, and they'd be back in power. This was all a power play. It was all about the election. It was all about the 2020 election. That's what coronavirus was all about. And there's some sinister characters involved in this, by the way. It's not just the Democrats working alone. They have help from some very powerful people outside the United States. Some of them are named George Soros and the Europeans. Some of them are named the Chinese. This is a global conspiracy to take down the United States of America by any means necessary. That's the bottom line. Now, there's one other theory floating around out there. Now, we just talked about the Paul Sperry story from the article he wrote in 2017, and from his appearance on Lou Dobbs back in 2017, where he was talking about Obama heading up this organization, which is training all these activists and anarchists and people like that. And it certainly looks like that a lot of what's happening now is very similar to what Paul Sperry was talking about then. And so this is leading people to the next logical conclusion, which is regarding these riots and everything that's going on now. Could this all be related to this grand scheme by Obama and his acolytes? And I think it's very possible, because these people certainly are practicing the Saul Alinsky Rules for Radical handbook. This stuff is all right out of the Rules for Radicals handbook by Saul Alinsky. And now that we know the amount of energy and effort that was used to put all this into place by Obama and his minions, I certainly would not regard it as a crazy conspiracy theory. I would regard this as a very real possibility that there are much larger forces at work here, and that this is not, well, you can look at it and see that it's not purely, organic. These are planned riots, organized riots. There are people being paid, people being funded, a lot of things going on. There's organization here. There are professionals involved. And then the other question you have to ask is, if all this is happening, why is it happening now? Well, you could certainly say, well, it's because we have an election coming up, but I don't know how this helps Democrats. I can see how in coronavirus, if they could keep the economy shut down, how that would help Democrats with a bad economy coming into an election. But I don't know how taking these groups to the streets and destroying cities all across the country, blue cities and blue states, is going to help the Democrats gain power in 2020. But there may be something even more important to the people who are running all this. And it might be the fact that we are closing in Durham and Barr, and the various U.S. attorneys he's now put on Durham's team are now closing in on the coup plotters. And I don't think it's too conspiratorial to suggest that just maybe the reason that they're ramping all this up now is because they know that Mr. Durham and Mr. Barr are about to drop the hammer on a lot of these people and expose the coup plot. And Obama sitting right at the top of the heap. Do you think it's possible that they're triggering all this to try to counter what's coming? Exposing the Obama coup? It sounds a bit conspiratorial, but it also sounds logical. And we can't put anything past Barack Hussein Obama. We know about his past. We have a pretty good idea what his future is going to look like after Barr and Durham get done exposing what happened under his leadership. Just food for thought, something for you to chew on. Probably the most disturbing thing I saw in the past 24 hours came from Frodo, over there on the Commie News Network, Kumo, Little Kumo, Young Kumo, where he sends out a tweet of a video showing the Normandy landing, because of course yesterday was the anniversary of the D-Day invasion, and he says in a caption below the video, "This is Antifa." This is Antifa, suggesting that Antifa is the same or is synonymous with those 100,000 or so American soldiers who died on Omaha Beach and Juno Beach there in the Normandy invasion back on D-Day. That is probably the most disgusting, disturbing, despicable thing I've ever seen from Kumo, and I've seen a lot from that guy. But to compare Antifa to the kids who hit those beaches on D-Day, 100,000 of them were killed on the beach. Or 10,000. It was 10,000. I think 10,300 and something were killed. There was about 100,000 in the initial force. About 10% of them were killed on the initial beach landing. That was just the landing. That was just to get onto the beach, to start the fight. We lost 10,000, more than 10,000. And I'm trying to imagine, when I look at the images of those 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who died on the beaches of Normandy that day, and I think about them, and I look at the images of the woke left zombies and Antifa, and I try to imagine how Kumo can be comparing the two. It's impossible. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but that was one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard come out of his mouth, or posted up on a social media site. To compare the D-Day invasion, the guys who died on those beaches that day, to Antifa, that's sick. That is sick. Devin Nunes was on One American News, exposing Rodentstein, as I've been doing for the past 3 days. He pointed out that the August 2017 scope memo was based on the dossier, when they knew the dossier was garbage at the time, including Rodentstein. It was an obstruction trap from the beginning, says Nunes. Rodentstein is a very slippery individual. Yes, he is. Nunes says he was perplexed by Rodentstein's testimony and the fact that he said that he was unaware of all the evidence that exonerated the president. I've already pointed out that that's a lie on Rodentstein's part. And Nunes wants to know who was on Rodentstein's team and what updates were they giving him. And he says that Rodentstein's testimony does not jive with reality. Exactly what I pointed out over the past 3 days. He was lying. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.